Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sanders Theater. I'm so honored and delighted that the Office of the President asked me to be here today to welcome you to the amazing conversation that's about to happen. My name is Joshua Campbell, and I'm a senior in Fortheimer House, studying French studies and music, and I also do quite a bit of theater and music here on campus. And I hope to keep doing theater and music, which means next year, if you're ever in the New York area, I'd be happy to give you a lift, or an Uber, or you can just give me some rent money. Now, today's conversation between President Faust and Mr. Conan will be about arts education and about being lost, which I usually am. In fact, I was at a loss about what to say about these two accomplished people who, in their own ways, have made so many contributions to advancement in the arts. Then I finally decided, you know what, I'll cut the quips and the gimmicks and just read the biographical info I received courtesy of the Office of the President. So let's see. President Faust. President Drew Faust is tall. Her Wikipedia page says she's from Brookline, the third of 6 kids, and she was raised Irish Catholic. She's a student of history, graduated with honors, and at Harvard she was the president of the Lampoon and wrote for Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons. Who knew? And let's see, Conan Christopher O'Brien. Conan is tall. His father, McGee Gilpin, went to Princeton and raised thoroughbred horses. He was a student of history and graduated with honors. He believes that the arts should be an integral part of the cognitive life of the university, and as the 28th president of Harvard University, commissioned a task force. Wait a minute, something's wrong. I think I'm a bit lost. Oh, here's the correct document. Yeah, tall, black hair, brown eyes, training in classical and musical theater techniques, learns choreography easily. Accents include French, British. Wait a second, this is my resume. Conan, I've left a copy of this backstairs in the green room. Feel free to distribute it to all your friends. Hopefully today's conversation will help us all find our way, and as an artist, I know I need some serious help with that. Now, just a little housekeeping. After the conversation, President Faust and Mr. O'Brien will take questions from the audience. There are 4 microphones in the theater, 2 on the ground floor and 2 in the balcony, and we ask that you line up behind the mics if you want to ask a question, but please wait to do so until the Q&A portion begins. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming President Faust and Mr. Conan O'Brien.
Here? Please sit, that's not necessary.
I just want to begin by saying thank you to Conan O'Brien. We talked about his doing this about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, and extraordinarily generous of him to give us this time and to be here with us today. So how about another round of applause for him? So Conan told me in the green room that the first time he ever performed was on this stage.
Really performed, yeah. We
So
just
tell us
walked up.
about
It
that.
was, I'll take you way back. I do not think, well, you weren't born yet. I think it was 1982, possibly. The Radcliffe Pitches were looking for someone to MC their concert. I was known as a guy who liked to try and be funny. I got a phone call. They asked me would I MC the concert, and I said, okay. And I remember very clearly working hard on my material, thinking I need an interesting look, so I went out and I bought a yachting cap. This is all at a used clothing store. I think it was Keezer's. And I came walking out, and I have never been that scared in my life. And I've done a lot of scary things since, but we just walked up through the stairs that I had to climb to come out here and perform for that group in 1982, 83, and I was petrified. So it's really weird to have come full circle, be back here now, and hearing the same silence that I heard then.
So, Conan, you were actually a really good student at Harvard. You
I don't remember. I honestly...
Well, I checked it out.
You checked it out. Oh, let me tell you something. There's nothing like... I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of very important people and perform for presidents and things, and I've been very fortunate that way. When President Faust writes me an email and asks me something, I write my response, and then I look at it, and then I have my wife look at it. That feeling that you're talking to Harvard and you're scared never goes away.
And the fact that
press send, yeah.
And then I send you a grade, that probably makes it worse.
You sent me a grade, and then I had to pay you $26,000. And wonderful exchange.
I gave him a discount.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all like, 26,000? That's nothing.
So you were a...
Here are your questions.
Here are my questions.
Where do you get the nerve? Wow.
Actually,
This is going to be a good interview. Who the hell do you think
these
you
are
are?
actually quotations from him that I'm going to read to him at various times and see if he remembers them. But you took all kinds of literature courses, history courses, city planning in Cairo,
Yeah.
Southern history, modernism, art history courses. What did any of that have to do with what you did after college?
Absolutely nothing. It's interesting, you should have asked me before I came here. My message to all of you, no. What's interesting is I have, in my career, because it's worked out, I have a lot of young people come to me and they say, I want to do what you're doing. And I say, well, are you in college right now? They'll say, yes, I'm in college. And they all invariably say, I'd take communications. Which, I don't want to say it to their face, but I think, what are you doing? You don't, college is when you should actually get about as lost as you can get in terms of expanding what it is you want to know, what it is you think you know and don't know. Go places, think about things that you would not normally think about. You do not get this opportunity again. And I was fortunate that when I came to Harvard, I was insecure. I had some insecurities. I'd come from a public school system, and I don't know if anybody else here has had the same experience, but you come from, well, be proud about it. That was sad. Woo! Woo! I went to a very good public school system, but I got here and suddenly I was in Hallworthy middle entryway, and I was suddenly, there's going to be a lot of that. I'm just going to name places the whole time. Then I had a sandwich at Wigglesworth. What did you learn from Conan? Nothing. He mentioned a lot of places and we wooed. But I got here and suddenly I'm boarding with kids that had gone to Exeter, Andover, and I remembered coming in the first day and I had gone to the Coop and bought my books, and I had never owned the books before. In public school, you get books that have been marked up from kids the year before. And I walked in and I said, we get to own these books. And I remembered a kid from Exeter was like, oh man, you know, been there, done that. And I'm like, and they call it a lecture, not class. And I did a lot of that back then. And I was very naive, and I was very, I thought, like a lot of people do, I'm not the one that belongs here. This might be a mistake. And I knew that I wanted to do something, and I was ambitious, but I didn't quite know what that was. And so my education here, what I loved about my education here, was that I met a lot of very different people at Harvard, and I met a lot of people who thought differently than I did. I met a lot of people that had different backgrounds than I had, and I would talk to someone that'd say, I'm taking an urban planning class and we're going to study the layout of the streets in Cairo. And I'd say, sounds good, I'm in. Now, that hasn't come up in any interview with Lady Gaga. It's just not something that comes up in my professional life, but I do think it was valuable for me. I think a lot of that kind of meandering that you do sometimes when you're in school is really helpful. And I'm very honest with younger people that I was insecure then. I'm insecure now. We have a program at our school where kids that are underprivileged in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, come in and they sit and they get to talk to me in the studio where I tape the show. And I remember one young woman said, I'm interested in performing and doing comedy, but I'm so insecure, when does that go away? And I said, I have bad news for you. It doesn't go away. And then I asked her to leave. I thought that would help underscore my point. But I spoke here in 2000 and gave a speech, and the message of my speech was to try and tell people, and I'm going to try and get that message out again today. When I was you, and I was sitting here looking at someone like me, the optical illusion, the optics are that that person has figured it out. And I'm here, and they're here, and nothing could be further from the truth. It's an illusion that people in my situation have figured something out. It is a constant struggle to, you're insecure in the morning, you feel better about yourself at night. Sometimes that switches, and it's the night, you're constantly judging yourself on what you did half an hour ago, and it's this journey that's not always pleasant. I've had plenty of ups and downs, and I try to just let people know that that is what they're in store for, and that's what they should be in store for.
So on your application to Harvard, which
God.
you probably don't remember.
I don't remember any of this, no.
Well,
This was pre-internet, kids. Mm-hmm. This is back when you typed it, and then you put it in a pneumatic tube. And it was fired to the university, yeah.
But you said something that's so consistent with what you just said today, which is you said you wanted to think about everything 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. And that was the definition of a liberal arts education.
I just said what I could to get in. I was like, those suckers will buy this line. And then rolled it up and went in a tube. Pneumatic tube back then, kids. No internet.
So I just met your father downstairs.
My father, yeah.
And he said,
I told security to keep my father out of this event.
Well, he's out in the hall now,
Yeah.
actually. But, he said you were always silly, and I was disappointed because I thought maybe we'd made you silly.
Oh, God, no.
But he said you were just always silly. So
Yeah.
when did you decide you could be professionally silly? Did you get a glimmer of that at Harvard?
Yeah,
as
well, the
you were
Lampoon
taking
was a
Cairo?
big influence because you don't learn to be funny, you don't learn to be silly. A lot of what you are or who you are, you're in some respects is decided, I think, early in life. You get the basic ingredients. To me, when I was a kid, and I think we all do this in one way or another, I ran through the list. What do I have? What do I have? What are my skills that will help me, A, not get picked on or beaten up, and that's in my own family, and B, that maybe get the attention of that girl I like. Those are the things that are operating on you on this very elemental level. Those are the things that you're thinking about when you're young, when you're a kid. Am I a good athlete? No, I was a terrible athlete. Was I incredibly good looking and all the girls liked me? No. I had this laundry list of things I would go through, and then I had this one thing, which is I could make people laugh. And so what happens, I think, is you find the thing you're good at, and in my case, it was so glaring. It's not like there were a million other things. There was this one thing. And if I had been a pretty good baseball player, I wouldn't be here today, The fact is and so I kept hyper-developing. You could say I was hyper-developing a defense mechanism. And then later on, and if you look at a lot of artists out there, that's probably what a lot of them are doing. My father, who is here and is a brilliant guy, once said to me, I get it now, you're making your living off of something that should probably be treated. And he's right. And then a tear. But a wealthy tear. Not important. Don't pursue wealth. But that is something that I think many of us do in one respect or another is we double down on the thing that we have to offer.
But you're being a little unfair to yourself in the following way. I mean, you perform silliness, but you're also a writer, and you were a very successful writer, even as a high school student. You won a national prize for writing.
I could write, yeah.
You wrote comedy, obviously, as you moved into the comedy field, but writing was something that you were excellent at.
Writing I was very good at, and something that came naturally to me, I would say, and something that I enjoyed, and I enjoyed writing funny things. And in high school, once a year, the school paper would do a silly issue, and they would say, Conan, you're kind of funny, why don't you write for it? And I would write the whole thing, practically. And it felt easy to me, and everything else was a grind. I was very ambitious, and I wanted to do well, and I was a good student, but I had to grind it out. It wasn't a natural pursuit of knowledge. I wasn't loving studying for my math test. I was afraid, and I was memorizing, and it felt very white-knuckle, a lot of my pursuit of academic excellence. And then writing was something that I just enjoyed the process, and I felt like I could make people laugh, I could write well. And when I got to Harvard, many people thought I chose Harvard because of the Lampoon. I really didn't know much about the Lampoon. I didn't know much about it. I never thought you could have a career doing what I do now. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I got here and it was the classic. I remembered I went to the Crimson to try out, and it just didn't feel like a good fit. And then I went to band. They had a band tryout for the marching band, and yeah, that was a disaster. I could drum, but I couldn't read music, and they kicked me out. And when you can't be one of 95 drummers, that was rough. And I went to the Lampoon, and it was just like falling off a log. Immediately, when you're 18, 22-year-olds are adults. And there were these 21 and 22-year-olds at the Lampoon that said, you're funny, and you have something. And that was a religious moment for me. And so I spent a lot of time working really hard on the Lampoon, and that, by the time I graduated, I remember thinking, I would like to try this for a year or two and see if I could do it. And that's still my attitude, you know. I want to give it just another year and see if I can do it. And so really it was the Lampoon that changed. I mean, Harvard and the Lampoon really changed things for me, you know, I think pretty significantly.
So I've read that you are still an avid reader of nonfiction, and that you use that in some ways as a context within which to think about the kinds of questions and issues you want to raise in comedy.
It's interesting. I don't read history and then use it in comedy, but I'm convinced that it's good fuel. I'm really passionate about, I love history books. My dad loves history books. He's always telling me about, you know, there's a new one about the Wright brothers. I'll read that. You know, I devour them. I love giant books about Churchill, giant books about Andrew Jackson, and I read them. And then I do think somehow it does influence my comedy, but I can't tell you how. I can't point to why it's important, but if you read history over and over and over and over and over again, you get the essence of what I'm trying to tell you, which is nobody really knows what they're doing. And people in charge make terrible mistakes. The people in charge of the military, the Germans and the British and the French and the Russians in World War I don't know what they're doing. Everyone in charge doesn't know what they're doing. And that lesson you learn, all of Lincoln's generals, he had to go through like 15 before he got one who knew what he was doing. Over and over and over again, you learn that lesson.
So I want to ask you about Lincoln. It's his birthday today. And
let's give it up for Lincoln.
Yes. So
kids are like, yeah, all right, you know.
You've said that Lincoln is my ultimate human being. That's a quote from you. And also our funniest president.
Definitely funniest.
And I thought those two things may go together. But say a little bit about Lincoln.
I don't understand how someone when someone demonstrates that they have a sense of humor, I think it's miraculous. And I think it's what's really lacking in politics, is that no one is allowed to pretty much express what I just expressed, which is that the world is a very complicated place. None of us really know what we're doing, and things can get a little effed up. I watched it. And I think John F. Kennedy was very good because he was very funny and very ironic because he had grown up ill and he had had experience in World War II with how messed up the military was. And so he had this kind of Irish sense that things are a mess. And you could see he had a humorous, wry look and I think it helped him in a lot of situations, even though he didn't get to be president very long. Lincoln had the same thing. I think Lincoln, and I sometimes read some of his quotes, and they're just funny. They're just as funny today as they were then. And he'll describe a general who completely messed up a battle and lost his nerve, and he'll describe him as acting like a duck that had been struck over the head, and he has these great moments where you're reading him and you think he gets it. He's a funny guy, and he's known a lot of pain, but he's able to see the irony in life, and it's very human. To me, nothing's more human than when someone can stand back and relate how silly the world is, really. So that, to me, is why Lincoln, in addition to all he's the smartest person of his generation, but he was also a brilliant writer. I mean, he wrote the Gettysburg Address. He didn't have 9 guys write different drafts of it and then call around and have pollsters take a look at it and then add a few lines of his own and then give it to a spin room. He wrote that, and that's one of the most beautiful things anybody's ever written.
Do you think Lincoln ever thought that he would get this present from Conan O'Brien on his 107th birthday? I think that's pretty terrific.
Yeah. He'd be like, who let that Irishman in? They're allowed to speak.
So you concentrated mostly in U.S. history.
Yeah.
That was the
I
focus.
did. I started out in, what I wanted to do early on was do anything I could to not get too specific. So my plan was, there's a major, when I heard there was a major history and literature, I was like, great. Because that's pretty much, and that's blocking out math and science where I'm weak. So when I heard there was a history and literature, I said, that's great. And then when I heard it was possible for me to be history and literature of England and America, I was like, fantastic. Because if you study England, you could also do France. I just wanted to keep it as wide open as possible so that I would be unemployable when I graduated.
And I raise that in part because now you're all over the globe with your show and with your performances.
We travel,
you were in Cuba. And
we did a show in Cuba. We did a show in Armenia. I leave tomorrow for South Korea because a Korean, we have some fans in South Korea, and this woman wrote me a letter on her that was hilarious. Her name's Sunny Lee. I think she's 17 years old, and she wrote me a letter, one in English and one in Korean, really long, and the whole letter is, I should be studying for my SAT, but I'm not because all I can do is watch clips of your show on YouTube, and I love it, and all my friends love it, and she's writing it on her SAT practice test instead of taking it. And then she sent it to me with a bunch of very mysterious Korean snacks. I'm not kidding. I don't know what. My assistant ate them all. And she's here and doing well. So, so what I'm interested in doing now in my career is I've gotten to this nice spot where if I have an idea, I can pursue it, and I love to keep learning. I love to keep finding out about things. And my sense of humor is very self-deprecating, so I actually think that works as a weird kind of, we got a lot of reviews after I went to Cuba from, the New York Times and Huffington Post, and all these respected people said, oh, this is a kind of new diplomacy that this guy can do, because I'm very humble. I go into a situation. In my comedy, I'm usually the one who's being laughed at. And that's what I'm comfortable with. I really like that. That's just the way I am. There's a bragging, we were talking about this backstage, there's a bragging culture I have a 10-year-old boy who, I think he's around other kids who are on the west side of Los Angeles who see rap videos, and then they start to talk about, they have the mannerisms, and he's like, yeah, I'm all that. And I'm like, you're all what? You're, I don't actually say that to him, but I communicate to him that, no, you're not from Compton, and you're not a badass, and you've got a lot to learn. And that bragging culture, I think, is something that I'm almost completely opposed to in every way, which is be humble, find the humor in yourself, and I like to be funny with people, I will make jokes about people if I can get away with it, if they're not around and there's no consequences. But for the most part, I like to go into a situation, whether I'm in Armenia or I'm in South Korea or I'm in Cuba or I'm in Finland. I like to make let them laugh at the American, which is what Mark Twain was doing in the 1880s, 1890s with the Americans Abroad. He's getting a lot of laughs at a lot of people. You're laughing at the American who's out of his element. And I think in the world, as a culture, we come across as very cocky. We come across as very dominant and self-assured. And when you can be a representative from a country and actually the poorest of them gets to laugh at you because you're ridiculous, you're 6'4", your hair looks like a pastry, you have no color in your skin, you have no lips, you don't seem to have any testosterone, your legs are way too long, torso way too short, this is sad. But when all that comes out of you and they can laugh at you, it's sort of actually a beautiful thing.
And will you see Sonny Lee?
I will see Sonny Lee. The press in South Korea has a hold of it now, so they want to turn it into a big thing. And, so I don't know what's going to happen when I go to South Korea. And I really don't know what's going to happen when I then visit North Korea. I'm told there's been some kind of trouble up there, but I like to go to a place first and then find out what's going on.
So I think we should open up and let you talk to the students of Harvard
Anyone
University.
who has a question or just wants to yell at me?
Microphones, there's one there.
Microphones
there's
are there.
One there. There's some up there.
There's a guy,
so
very
please
confident.
come ask some questions.
Okay, didn't really dress up. That's all right.
Want me to mess up?
Very casual. Just from the gym, I guess. Okay, well, that's all right.
Do you want me to mess up? I can mess up easily. Okay, first things first. I'm from Cairo, Egypt, by the way.
You're from Cairo.
I'm from Cairo.
You've got problems with your urban planning.
That's exactly my question. I don't know what you were studying there.
I've waited my whole life
We know that. It's something we're very proud of.
talk to someone in Cairo. The grid is all wrong. We'll talk about it.
It's something we're very proud
We're
of.
canceling
I know.
Korea.
It's something we're very proud of. I know. I was wondering what you were studying there because I don't think we have something to study. But besides that, second question, or maybe two questions in one. I have a friend in South Korea, a big fan of yours. Her name is Soo-Hyun Jin. If you can send her an invitation. I don't know if you're actually going to do that. I have her email. Anyways, more important question. At the end
You
of
realize you're saying this is the third question and the first two haven't been questions.
I have a problem with math as well.
What's happened to Harvard is what I want to know.
I have a problem with math as well. My third question.
My third question. You look quite handsome. Well, that's all I've got.
Thank you. You said at the end of your video that if anyone sends you food from their respective country, you'd be willing to go there.
Yes.
So if I send
Snacks. I was very specific.
If I send you
If a
snacks,
country sends me snacks, I will go to that country.
we don't really have snacks. We only have food. But okay, if I send you snacks from Cairo, would you visit?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
If the Ministry of Tourism gets this, they're
Yes.
going to send you some stuff.
Yes.
I will see you in Cairo.
My assistant will eat them all. Okay.
I hope she's fine.
I'm going to Cairo. Just send the snacks. Once I
I
get the
will.
snacks, I'll go
I
to Cairo.
promise you.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to Cairo. Snacks first. That's how it works. Yes. What's your name?
Hi,
Hello, what's your name?
I'm Tess.
Hi, Tess. What house are you in?
Lol.
Oh, that's the one I tried to get into.
I
I was sent to Mather. Oh, yeah. That's great.
That was
It's
the
easy to
pretty
hose
screen.
down that place.
Yeah.
They poured it in one mold and then just walked away.
I hear back in the day that the houses, you actually had a choice?
Yes.
And that apparently you were grouped into different.
Yes.
There were definite.
They had more of a person. Each one had a personality. You could literally go to Eliot House, and everyone eating there was wearing a bow tie, and had a falcon on their arm. No joke. It was a different place. And then you go to Quincy, and everybody was like lifting weights at the table. I mean, it was everything. And then you go to Mather House, and well, no one was there. We just people
Some
refused
things
to
never
eat there.
change. So my question is now, after really decades of late night television really being dominated by men, what do you think can be done, in the 21st century for us to make it more equal and have more women involved in late night comedy?
Well, first of all, it's a great question.
Thank you.
And I think the first thing I would say about that is that I think there was, for years, comedy was completely male-dominated. When I started my late-night show and we would get applications, the most interesting thing I would notice is that if we got 300 applications for comics, a handful, maybe 6 or 5 would be from women. So the ratio of women applying to work in comedy was way out of whack compared to the men applying to work in comedy. I always thought there's probably a really strong social reason, which I saw myself, which is that when guys do something outrageous and funny, people would laugh. When women do it, it's like, hey, settle down. That it was inbred in the culture a little bit, and that there were a lot of women who were less willing to break the barriers and try and be in comedy. Obviously, we live in a world now where, for my money, some of the funniest people on the planet right now are women. They're dominating. It's not just Tina Fey, and it's also Amy Schumer, Amy Poehler. You have Samantha Bee just debuted on my network and got rave reviews for her show. And I think it's changing. I think it's changing rapidly, much faster than it was even just a few years ago. And I think it's just, the biggest thing it's changing is that the Trailblazers have shown that there is a huge market and a huge appetite for funny women. And so it used to be that you would look at women, and there was almost a fetishization, or like oh look, she's really funny. This stand-up comic who's Joan Rivers, when she first came along, it was, wow, a woman can be funny in the 1970s. That has completely changed. That's completely, the doors have been blown off of that. And now I think it's a matter of time, very quickly, before it's going to be much more equitable. In late night, it's already across the board. Many of the comedians are hosts in daytime who are really funny. I mean, I don't frankly see the difference between Ellen DeGeneres. To me, whether she's on at night or on during the day, she's Ellen. She's a very funny, sharp, gifted comedian. She could host The Tonight Show, she could host The Late Show, she could host my show. I think there has been kind of a Berlin Wall, and I think it's coming down.
Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem.
Good afternoon, President Faust, Mr. O'Brien. My name is Lippy Roy. I'm actually a doctor at Mass General and at the Harvard Med School, but my day job is I'm a doctor to Boston's homeless population. So I'm a firm believer in the adage that laughter is the best medicine. And even my vulnerable patients who struggle with addiction and trauma, cancer, they still manage to find humor, and it actually manages to make them better in some way, but it's tangible. And they even laugh at their doctor's lame attempts at jokes. So you've clearly made a career out of comedy and laughter. And I'm wondering, and it's in addition to providing your paycheck, do you also find like a therapeutic or a healing value to laughter and comedy?
Well, it's funny, because I've always thought that humor is like the third best medicine. I think antibiotics and surgery.
Overrated, totally overrated.
I like a good laugh as much as the next person, but I want the meds, I want some good scanning, and I want the surgery, and then it's time for, chuckles to come in. But I do think I love making people laugh, and I do think that there are very few things in life where everybody wins. Usually someone wins, and someone loses. And there are people who are very successful at business because they destroyed other people and they made this. But every now and then you find a system where everybody wins. Maybe someone has a business that does well and it's supplying people with something they really want. Somebody writes something that everybody enjoys, they enjoy writing it, everybody wins. And that has been the joy of my life, I didn't get into this, I was not ever, I think I inherited from my family. We were just sort of, we like to do what we like to do and we don't really think of what we're gonna get paid. And I do think I'd be doing what I'm doing if no one was paying me, just because, and I don't want that to get out because there are people that would say, fine, we're not paying you anymore, and I would keep showing up. That was never the reason for it. When I can make someone laugh hard at the weird thing I've just thought of in my brain, and I say it and they laugh, there is an immediate connection which is so profoundly fulfilling to me that it helps me as much as it helps them. And so when I meet fans, I mean, my wife, we were walking around and I'm constantly meeting people that everyone wants a selfie, but then they want to talk and then they want to chat. And it'll get to the point where the other person is like, I really got to go, Conan, you know? I get a lot of fulfillment out of it. This is a fun thing for me to get to do. When I met President Faust in that seedy bar a year ago, and she was like, you gotta do it, come by to Harvard. Seriously. And I was like, President Faust, please. It's 1 in the afternoon. I don't care. The campus is so politically correct. We got some coffee into her and water and an IV, but I really enjoy it.
Who's winning in this particular exchange?
This is one where I win, you lose. But the important thing is, but they really win. But anyway, that's the secret, is that I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. You're right, there is something kind of magical about comedy. Is the truth seen it is a shard of the truth that disappears. It's there for a second and then it just disappears into nothingness. It's this little spark and then it's gone. But when you have that with somebody, it's magical, absolutely magical.
That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Don't forget the people in the...
Oh, I didn't realize, okay. Yes.
Hey, Conan.
How are you?
My first question...
You're like God right now. It's amazing. You're like Mussolini standing over me. It's incredible. Yes.
So I'm a freshman in Thayer, and I thought I would ask you, what mistakes did you make your freshman year? And if so, would you change any of the mistakes you made and make them corrections?
Yes, there are plenty of things that I did that I wish I hadn't done. One was, and this is real, I didn't take an economics course. I don't know if they still have it, but Ec 10? Who woos Ec 10? What a nerd sanctuary we got here. It's the only place I can go in the world and go Ec 10. Let's do the wave. I was intimidated, and I thought math is math. I don't know, economics, I've never understood it. I didn't take Ec 10. For the rest of my life, I've regretted it. I seriously contemplate at some point in the future, when my career has calmed down and I have, 9 months off or a year, I would move back here. I would ask President Faust, can I just take Ec 10? Because I'm constantly reading about the economy. I quasi-understand things. I think that was knowledge that I don't have, and I've always regretted it. And I didn't take that course because I was insecure. I just thought, well, I don't know if I'll do that well in that course, and that might hurt my GPA, and I wish I had taken that course. So I would be more willing to throw myself. I know that part of what was said before is that I did throw myself into things, and I did, but there were times when I stopped myself. And I really wish I had taken that course. And I wish acne medication had been further progressed. That would have been a real game changer for me. Oh, man. Yes. I'm trying to see who's next. I want to be equitable.
I'm
Yes.
up here.
Where? Oh, anyone,
Over here.
please? Oh, yes, right there. Sorry, there's a light here, so all I see is light, like I'm dying. And then I don't know what's happening. Yes.
Hi, Mr. O'Brien.
Please
my
call
name's
me Dr. O'Brien.
Dr. O'Brien. I'm so sorry.
I got a doctorate from Dartmouth. Apparently Harvard didn't have one. Yes, how can I help you?
My name's Betty.
Hi.
I'm a fellow Irish Catholic with a great sense of humor, so I honestly just want to talk to you. But I'm trying to come up with a question on the spot.
That's okay, it'll come to you.
Craziest moment at Harvard, like craziest story.
Craziest moment at Harvard?
Yeah.
I've told this before, but I mean, there were a lot of them. But I remember a few of my friends and I played a prank once. This is, you know, pranks made me nervous, but this one actually felt like a fun. There was a guy. This isn't going to make sense. But anyway, there was an old TV show long before when I was a kid, even from the '60s, called Batman, and it starred Adam West, and it was amazing, and it was really weird and quirky. And there was a guy who played Robin. He came to the campus. This is years later to display the Robin costume that he wore, and he was being very pompous about it. And there were all these signs all over campus. Burt Ward will speak in person at the Science Center, and he will display the actual Robin costume, estimated worth $500,000. Just total BS. And so we decided, let's steal it. So we went to the Science Center, and we, at the approved time while he was giving his lecture, we had a friend who knew where the lights were, and he killed the lights so that we could steal the costume and run out the door. In movies, when you kill the lights, everything goes black and you do what you have to do. And this is something you should learn at Harvard. In real life, if we killed the lights right now and I tried to steal President Faust's watch, things would get a little less light. And you would see me struggling with President Faust's watch while she looked at me and then she hit me in the face. Oh, there you go.
You can have it.
Better than a doctorate. But anyway, so we grabbed the costume. Everyone saw us grab it. We started running, and here's the craziest thing. Burt Ward didn't chase us. Other students chased us. I don't know what their deal was. They were like these, how dare he? That's a crime. We invited him here in good faith. And so we ended up jumping in a car that was waiting for us. And it tore off. And I remember just thinking, why am I doing this? It was on a mannequin, a Robin costume. Everyone saw. Conan just ran out in I think either the lights slightly dimmed or we all had a stroke at the same time. And then he called the castle and said, give it back. And I was like, okay. I mean, that was one of 10,000 stupid things I did. Literally one of 10,000.
I can relate.
You can relate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're happy, I'm happy.
I'm happy. As a follow-up, I was just wondering, could I ask you to dab?
Ask what's that?
Dab?
What's that? I couldn't hear you.
Dab?
Anybody want to help me out here? I'm 77 years old. I don't know what you're talking about.
Can you see me?
I can see you, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see you.
It's like,
What's that?
just pretend like you're sneezing and kind of,
And what would the purpose of that be?
just like a little dance move.
Is this something that the kids are all into these days?
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, I'm your monkey right now. I'm your trained
A
chimp.
little bit.
Will this bring you a small bit of joy?
It really will.
All right,
I've had
then
a
I do
tough
it.
week. Thank you.
Yes, you wearing the unnecessary Harvard sweater.
It's a cold day.
I didn't mean to, I'm just saying. We all know.
I was curious, as a 19 or 20 or however old you were, if there was one piece
Could
of
you
advice.
speak a little closer to the mic? Just
If-
tilt that mic. It'll tilt up if I know my business.
If there was one piece of advice you would tell yourself now to someone who is maybe trying to find their way in the world.
I think there's this great, I don't know if it's a Buddhist, I don't know where it comes from. It may be from a Dixie Riddle cup. It may be Confucius. I honestly don't know. I don't even know if they still make Dixie Riddle cups. I may have invalidated myself with all of you right now. Expect difficulties is something. I think everybody in this room has gotten into Harvard. Some of you probably are here, snuck in, but I don't care. Let's just say, for point of argument, that everybody here got into Harvard, and you feel this incredible pressure to succeed. And I gave a speech here back in 2000, and at the end I said, fame is a little like a white tuxedo, it looks good, or success is a little like a white tuxedo, it looks good, but you're very afraid of getting it dirty, and it can inhibit you. And I think I would tell my 19-year-old self that everything you're feeling right now, I used to think that if I could look at someone like myself, I thought they had figured it all out and they were fine. And wouldn't it be magical if I could have my own show and be funny and everyone knew who I was and most people liked it? That would be a great thing and it would solve all my problems. And I would like my future self to say, that's not the case. It's actually day by day, how you do your work, how you conduct yourself, how you treat people, what the joy you get out of your work, that is far more important. And I'm not saying that as like to try and take away from, I'm really proud of some of the things I've achieved, but I wish I had not put myself so low on the totem pole when I was 18 or 19 years old and thought that these other people who were sitting up on stage talking knew so much more than me and had happy, problem-free lives, because that's not true, I'm not saying that to depress you. I'm actually trying to say that as a way to sort of liberate yourself a little bit, It's not, allow for mistakes, allow for problems. I've had my career blow up on me about 2 different times, and I'm still here and very grateful, and I learned a lot during those moments and wouldn't really change a thing about any of it. And so I think Harvard, as great as it is, can sometimes instill, and I don't think no one's telling you this, it's just subliminal. A lot of you have this, is I have to do great things and I need to succeed. And you just have to be willing to screw up and not freak out when you do screw up. Because you will screw up. I mean, you're really going to screw up. It's in a week. We'll talk later.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a junior.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, I'm a junior in Cabot House, and
Woo, Cabot. Woo.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process of writing your senior thesis here?
Oh my, it's another era now. It really is. This dates me. I came up with this idea that I really liked for my thesis, and then proceeded to get way too intense about it. I got very intense about it to the point where I'm not sure, but I think I might have pushed myself a little bit to a nervous breakdown. I really got crazy about my thesis, and worked on it and worked on it and worked on it, and I could tell it was getting convoluted. And then I would panic and I would work on it some more, and then I would feel it was getting more convoluted. And I remember that some kids had personal computers. This is 1984, 85. Late 84, early 85. Some kids had personal computers, but a lot of them didn't. So in Mather House, there was a room that had a word processor in it. And this thing today looks like a giant meat refrigerator. I mean, it was huge. And it had a keyboard, and you had to take a big floppy disk, and you had to feed it in, and then you had to put about 7 quarters into it. And I'm not kidding, and it would come to life, and then you had time to write your thesis. But then you'd stop to think, and you'd hear, because your quarters had run out, and you would put more quarters in, and sometimes you'd completely run out of quarters, and you would have to save it, and because you might lose the information. I tell that to people now, and I think about the luxury of people will be writing their thesis on their Apple Watch, you know, and you know, and then there's a button probably that's like in summation that does it for you. And I was, you know, that's another thing I would change, is I would say, try to have fun with this, because I sweated my thesis too much, and I made myself miserable, and I tortured myself with it. And funny story, about 5 years ago, I went on a national tour, and we had booked out, we had arenas, giant auditoriums, and it was a show where I did comedy and music, and I had electric guitar and a big band, and the show would always end with me doing these songs and literally surfing through the crowd. And we had these amazing, like Eddie Vedder came and did a spot, and Vampire Weekend, and you know, Tina Fey, all these people came, and it was like this big love fest every city we went to, and it was amazing. And at the end, it was a rock show. It was this amazing rock show that was really fun, and I had great musicians sitting in with me, and we'd blow the roof off the place and say, "Good night, Cincinnati," and everyone, ah, the dream that everybody has. I got to live that for a summer. And then it's over, people surging forward, and you think, you know, I'm gonna get underwear thrown at me, I'm gonna get all the cliches of being a rock star. All these people surge forward, and this girl, who I think was about 22 years old, and she's like, Conan, I have something for you. And you're like, what's this gonna be? Wow. And then she pushed forward a big document, and she went, "It's your thesis." Literary Progeria in the works of William Faulkner and Flannery O'Connor by Conan C. O'Brien, March 1985. And she was like, "I went to Lamont and copied it, woo!" And just at that moment, all of the feelings of writing the thesis came back to me. And so there I am with like my shirt open, you know, and suddenly it all came back. The terror, and for years afterwards, nightmares about the thesis wasn't really done. There's one more thing, I have to go back, I have to finish it, and then you wake up, and I still have those dreams. I really do. And this thing today isn't helping. As we drove up here today, I started to, because we used to take our tests in Memorial Hall. I know you freshmen eat there now, but that's where we took our tests. And that's, this is rough. I'm having some post-traumatic stress. Yes?
I'm Liana, and I know that everyone's been asking you questions about, you know, like you obviously have a lot of experience in comedy and writing, and you've been very successful. But as a freshman, I'm hoping you can tell me, how do I please get into the Lampoon?
Oh.
I'm trying so hard.
That place changes so much. It's a movable feast, so that I don't know if I could go back if in a weird experiment I could be disguised as an 18-year-old and start submitting stuff under the name, Jet Blaze, because that's a hot name. And I could show up, they might reject me, It's always, the taste might be different. They might not like what I'm doing. I don't know. So I do think it's like anything else. You put yourself out there. And if it's something that you really want, in your freshman, comp more than once. But I don't think there's anything I could tell you, that would make a difference, because, as I said, it's maybe a completely different sensibility than the one that I had when I was there.
Thank you.
No problem. That thank you translated to, that was of no help. You did nothing for me. Yes?
Hi, I'm Namita.
Hi.
I'm a huge fan, so thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to ask, what's your strategy, or what's going through your head when an interview is going really badly? Because I've seen you carry some pretty bad. Yeah. It's a compliment to you.
I think we're out of time. No. That is my job. You know, it's funny, but I'm actually prouder of those interviews than the ones that just, you know, Will Ferrell comes on. I don't get points for having a funny interview with Will Ferrell. That's Will Ferrell. If absolutely hilarious, if Bill Hader comes on, I shouldn't even get paid that day. You know, those are hilariously funny people that come on the show. That's easy. I actually feel that I don't get paid to talk to those people. I get paid double to talk to people who, it's a weird situation. We have a format or a culture that wants some people to go out and have conversations, witty conversations, to help promote their project. But sometimes that's the exact antithesis of what it is they do. There are amazing actors who are terrific, and if you put them in a small space, they can give a nuanced performance with very, you know, small movements of their face, and it's beautiful, and they get it just right, and they win Oscars. And then people say, now you got to go promote that movie, get out there and get out with Conan, and you know, and they, whatever. That's the only picture that will come out of this whole event. And they can't do it. And that's when it's my job I always think it's my job to expand or contrast, go high or go low. My job is to make them look good. So we have some people come on. I see people whose hands are trembling out there. And I feel empathy for them, and I want them to be comfortable. So I've had people who've said nothing, and I have filled it in with stories. I have said, that's funny, you exhaled, and that reminds me of the time, and then and then it's over, and I come off, and my producer says, hey, you know, she was pretty funny. She was not funny! Look at the tape, that was me! Look at it! You know, and it's, but that's my job, so thank you for noticing that I try.
Thank you so much.
Really hard. Yes?
Hi, my name is Brian. Before I ask my question, I just want to say I'm from the Harvard School of Rock, and if you want to play with us anytime, you're more than welcome.
Thank you very much. What is the Harvard School of Rock?
It's a club that plays rock music. At Harvard.
I guess you made a fool out of me. I'm not getting paid for this, by the way. I want that clear. Keep abuse on me. Yes. That's a very nice offer. Thank you.
Sure. So what I wanted to know, because when you said this earlier, it really made me feel sad.
That's what I'm here for. You don't sound like you could get any sadder, by the way. I feel like I'm on a suicide hotline right now, pal.
Do you still tell jokes so that you don't get bullied?
Oh, yeah, I don't think I tell jokes, not like, you know, jokes, but I think I am funny to diffuse unpleasant situations. You know, yes, I think humor is still a mechanism. It's an avoidance mechanism. It's a way to smooth over. It's a way to not feel hurt in the moment and then later on crawl off and feel hurt. Now you're making me sad. So you've done your job. But yes, I don't think stuff like that goes away. I think if you learn it, I think humor, you know, my last year of my life, I think I'll be using humor in some way to deflect pain.
Who bullies you?
Well, right now it would be you. I would keep an eye on that one, by the way. Just watch his movements. Yes. Can't see you, you're just a shadow. No idea what you look like, but it's good. Go ahead.
Hi, Conan. My name's Josh. Been a lifelong fan since you were doing the year 2000 skits with Andy.
Oh, yeah.
In the 90s.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
No
My
one
question
here,
is,
there was, yeah, too long ago.
I think more than any comedian I know, you incorporate your staff in a lot of your videos and a lot of your sort of behind the scenes.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, why is it that you derive so much energy from them? It seems like Sona, Jordan Schlansky, and these kinds of people. Why do they bring you so much energy, it seems?
Well, first of all, Sona's here, so anyone, yeah. Sona's here in the building. I don't know where she is, okay, she's here somewhere. What's that? Oh, there she is, right there. Sona, stand up, Sona. Let people see you. That's my, stand up. Stand up. There she is. There's this old saying that, I don't know if it was certain cultures, I don't know which culture it was, but they would use every last piece of the buffalo, you know. Nothing to do with what I'm saying right now. No, but when your job is to look at things in a funny way and you work in an office and you're trapped, we're on a submarine. We're in this, for 23 years I've been in a small space desperately trying to think of funny things with other very creative, crazy people. And what happens is you end up inevitably seeing what's really funny about the people around you, and then you start using them on the show, and sometimes that's the best stuff because it's so real. I can't make up a person. Jordan Schlansky is a production assistant on my show, and I've had people stop me at fast food places, like stop their car and get out of the car while it's still running and grab my arm and say, "Is Jordan real?" He's such a strange, strange fellow. I couldn't make him up. I couldn't make Sona up. You can't make, these are real people, and they're endlessly funny and great, and so why not put them on television? Yes.
Oh,
Right there,
me, okay,
yes.
hi. My name is Sarah, and I'm actually a current member of the Radcliffe Pitches.
Oh.
So it was very exciting to hear you mention kind of how you got your start.
That was my
with our
first
group.
ever gig,
Yeah.
emceeing for the Radcliffe Pitches.
And so just really quick, we wanted to thank you for your involvement and invite you to our 50th anniversary concert to be held in 2025. Yeah, we're just giving you a lot of time. You know, so you can put in your calendar.
I will consult my doctor and see if I'll still be around, and if I am, I'd love to come by and have people wonder, who is that horrible old man? Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, if I'm around and if people still care, I'll come by.
Awesome.
They might just be wheeling out a brain in a jar. Hello, everybody. Yes.
Hi. Oh my God. I'm Lola.
Hi, Lola.
Hello. What's up? You should come see the Hasty Pudding show. It's not in 2025. It's like now. And my question is.
Hasty Pudding. Come on.
Come on. It's called That 1770s Show. And my question is, what is the stupidest thing you did when you were younger, like high school, elementary school?
Oh, this is terrible. This has become an embarrassing game show. I really, I don't know. That one I'd have to get back to you on. I don't know. That's just like, what's your favorite sandwich? How many sandwiches have you had? I've done so many stupid things. It's very hard for me to think of what was a really stupid thing I did that long ago.
Or recently.
You just want me to embarrass myself here. I honestly, I'd have to think about that and get back to you. I don't have a right off the top of my head answer for stupidest thing I've done. That's really, a lot of things are fighting it out in my memory.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with which is it?
Hasty
Pudding, yes. Good luck with that. That's where they do puns. Yes?
Thank you, first of all, for coming. I'm not going to promote anything, so that's good.
You're not going to promote anything?
No. But also, so
what's it say on your shirt?
As a young artist here, I know that me, myself, and a lot of the other artists that I know have a struggle with being here, and maybe the pressure comes from home, maybe the pressure just comes from other people, but wanting to go into entertainment or some sort of creative realm, I think, we feel a lot of the time a lot of pressure from people because we're at this place where we could do all these grandiose things that seem so much more quote-unquote important than doing whatever we want to do creatively as artists. Did you ever feel that kind of pressure, and what would you say to those kinds of people?
I wrote a piece for Vanity Fair. You could probably look it up that I was really proud of. It was for their comedy issue. I went about 3 years ago. I wrote a piece that I really was proud of that was about an apocalyptic tale of the future where everyone starts taking improv classes and it spreads. And then farmers stop farming because they're too busy doing snarky sketches about farming and emailing them to each other. And then the whole system breaks down. And there are like wolves wandering the streets, and everyone's in a basement doing a snarky podcast, and there's no supply of food. And it was me, just because I have wondered about that. Think that you want to balance it out. I sometimes wonder, we don't want all of our best and brightest to be coming up with funny ideas for sketches, But I think those things sort themselves out. I really do. I think that people that are meant to be doing it end up doing it, and people end up finding what it is they're here to do, and they do it as long as they're honest with themselves. So I don't think that's a big concern. I never thought myself I would be of more use, at the Pentagon or in medical research or as a lawyer. I think I'm of more use doing what I'm doing. And so I've never had that on my mind, on my conscience. I really think this is something I can do, and it's a way that I can help. But the rest of it gets sorted out. I really believe that. I think people figure it out. People start out maybe thinking they want to do comedy. They try it for a bit. If they're not meant to do it, that becomes clear, and then they end up discovering the cure for cancer, and then they get into comedy. Yeah. Yes?
Hey, Conan. I'm Nick. I'm a freshman in math.
Hey.
Huge fan. My question is, you addressed the pressure of kind of being here, and when you consider, the job market is, kind of getting smaller and how we're all, kind of sort of in competition with each other for, the future, what would you suggest to, someone young who's trying to make a name for himself or distinguish himself amongst so many?
Make a name for yourself in what field?
Well, I'm in econ, so I can't really do that. But how do you distinguish yourself amongst so many people?
I really believe this is a message that I say to younger people, and it's not fun, but I will tell you this. It's absolutely true that and I said this once, and I absolutely believe it, but if you work hard and you are easy to work with, meaning people enjoy working with you and you're helpful and you're trying to help the group, even in a troubled economy, I do think that people tend to do well when they have those traits. Do you know what I mean? And I have found that if you, and a few of my friends as well, Greg Daniels, who went to school with me, has created some, Parks and Rec and The Office and so many great shows. We both, when we started out together, we were partners before I wanted to get into performing. And both of us worked really hard, but I think the thing we also had in common was that people liked working with us. We were kind, we were nice, and I think some of those things are so elemental that they get lost because everyone's trying to think, what's the secret? What's the word? What's the strategy? And actually, working very hard, I think, is far more important than having talent. Talent, we don't know what talent is. I'm here at Harvard. Nobody can tell me what talent is. They can't locate it in the brain. Nobody knows what it means. Nobody can quantify it. This guy may have a lot of talent. This woman may have less talent. This woman may have tons of talent. This guy may have very little. It's all about taking what you have and maximizing it. And you do that two different ways. It's working really hard, and it's also, in my opinion, and it's a terrible word, but karma. There is something to being a good person, being a nice person, trying to work with people, help them, be a good partner. Word gets out. When someone like that is around in our show, we've had interns come work for me, and the ones that always rise up through the ranks and end up becoming a producer on the show, and eventually producers of their own shows, are always the interns that showed up, killed themselves, did a really good job, but they weren't the ones jumping on the elevator with me and going like, Conan, you, me, a mocha latte, ha 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 ha. Because I had interns do that and we murdered them. And I do think those are the essentials. There's no secret. it really is, if I had to say it's two things, it's working really hard and being easy to work with and kind. You put those two things together, and in any economy, sadly, you'll be a rarity. Yes?
Hey, I was wondering what effect you think the era of sort of having increased sensitivity to how other people feel has on comedy, and like what, if anything, do you think is too far or too offensive to say?
I don't know. I've heard people like Jerry Seinfeld said, well, I don't want to play college campuses anymore because they're too sensitive. I haven't had that experience. I don't know. We are living in an era, obviously, where it's quite clear on a lot of campuses people are hypersensitive to about certain issues, and some of that's to the good, some of that may not be. I honestly don't know. I know that a lot of comedy is feeling out the environment that you're in and responding to it. None of this is scripted today. It's just a conversation, and I didn't come in here with a set agenda of this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to say, and this is where I think there'll be a laugh. So to some degree, I'm playing off of the people in this room and trying to be sensitive in that way. I think there probably are comics now that would come in here and do a bunch of material that may be not sensitive to that situation. So sometimes as just an observer, you can feel when you're watching that certain speakers can't go to a college and speak. That troubles me, because I think that goes counter to what a liberal arts education's about. I think, pretty much, I think students should still be listening to anybody, even if they don't like what that person has to say. That's me personally, but.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You? Who? Next? Someone? Yes.
Hi. Oh, wow. Hi, Conan. I'm Connie. I'm a senior in Leverett. I've watched your 2011 commencement address at Dartmouth maybe 30 times all the way through. It's one of my favorite things ever. It definitely picks me up when I'm in a bad mood. But incidentally, you actually said, you ended it by saying, if you work hard and are kind, amazing things will happen. And I carry that with me every day. So I'm wondering if there are any quotes from your heroes that you carry with yourself.
I couldn't hear the last
Any
part.
quotes from your heroes that you carry with yourself throughout your career?
Well, that earlier one, expect difficulty, I always think about that. That's the kind of person I am. I always think trouble's about to hit. And so I don't know that I recommend that way of going through life. In terms of quotes from heroes, I'm terrible at remembering quotes. I'm terrible at remembering jokes. I can remember the jokes that I have to tell on one given night, but I can't remember them soon after. My brain is an Etch-a-Sketch. I come up with what I have to come up with for a 24-hour period, and then I go to sleep and I shake it, and it's completely blank. I'm not quite sure who I am right now. So I don't know that there's one quote that I could tell you that would blow you away.
Thanks.
Yeah, like Nike, just go for it or whatever. Is that still a thing? I don't know. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sylvia. So, you talked a lot about checking the list down and then finding that one thing that you have, and just kind of knowing if it's something that you're meant to do. But did you ever feel sometimes that maybe you had that one thing wrong, and what did you do when you felt like you were forcing it to get through it?
We're talking about 4 minutes ago. Yeah. I think everybody has that. That's just having you're not human if you're not questioning. I go through periods of time where I think, okay, I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing anymore. Have I done this enough? What's the next thing? You can have 3 shows in a row where it didn't really go your way, and then you start to, out of whatever I've done in my lifetime, 3,600 hours of television or something, you can have 3 in a row that don't go well, and you start to seriously contemplate, what am I doing? I think that's everybody. I think there's an illusion that you will learn here, and then you will go on, and this is something I talked to President Faust about, which is that your education is ongoing. Your education never stops if you treat it the right way. This is teaching you kind of how, here you're going to learn how to think, you're going to meet a lot of interesting people, and then it's up to you to keep educating yourself and keep trying and keep making decisions and saying, all right, that worked. I don't know if I can do this anymore. This was a huge disappointment. Oh my God, I struck oil. This is amazing. I don't know anymore. I mean, that is the process. I'm a lot older than you, and I still in many ways can relate to the 18-year-old Conan that was here in this theater and felt that way. And I still, in a lot of ways, feel that way. I just, you know, have my own, I have a few credit cards now that are my own. They're not my parents. And that's the only, I still have one of my parents, which I use a lot. But they don't know. But that is something that I truly believe is that that is a process. That's almost like that's the news that I'm here to tell you, is that you nurture that feeling of insecurity, of being lost, of not being sure. That's a healthy sign. That's a sign that you're on your way. Whenever you think, you know, my son, who I talk about from time to time, he's 10 years old, every now and then I'll come into the house and he's got his hands back like this. And he's just like that, and he's got a big smile on his face, and I'll think, I've never, ever in my whole life gone, yep, clear sailing, here we come. And he's 10, he's just that way. He's just like, what's gonna happen? It's all gonna be good. And I think, that kid needs a beating. Yeah.
Hey, my name's Jose. So I just want to ask you, you have a lot of, you know, very funny people on your show. Do you ever get that same feeling that I'm sure most of us got when we first saw you anymore, or has that, like, you know, gone away with time?
No, definitely. I know exactly what you're talking about, which is when someone comes on and they're young, and there was a Scottish comedian we had on starting about a year and a half ago named Daniel Sloss, I think, and he's from Scotland, and he's just hilarious, and I react to him the way I did to Louis C.K. Louis C.K. was, I think, the second writer I hired back in 1993. And one of the things we did together, actually, is because Louis was from the Boston area, I once came back here to Cambridge, and he came with me. This is when my show had been on for about a year, and it was struggling. And Louis and I just hung out in Harvard Square. And no one knew Louis. You know, people knew me, but they were like, I don't know if that guy's going to make it. And Louis now is like this demigod. And I get as excited today seeing young people come on the show, and, you know, Kevin Hart, doing things with Kevin Hart. He just really makes me laugh. He's an amazing improv partner. And when I first met him, he was, you know, his career wasn't where it is now. But he was I could tell he's got such great comedic energy. He's so funny, and he really is that guy. If Kevin Hart was here right now, he'd be like, what's your name? You know, and he'd make something funny happen. And it's sweet, it's nice, it comes from a good place. So I am as excited today to meet young, talented people, young, funny people, to see a young, funny show. There's a show called Man Seeking Woman, comedy sketch show. That's hilarious. I see little things here and there, Last Man on Earth, Bill Hader. I see young people doing really funny stuff, and I'm so excited that it keeps you young. It makes me feel like if I'd seen them when I was 19, I'd be as excited as I am right now.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
President Faust and Mr. O'Brien, this is your upper right. Thank you for doing this.
What time does our plane depart? This is just what it sounded like.
Currently a fellow at the Kennedy School, and learning the things that you would think people would learn at the Kennedy School. One thing I've been very surprised at, however, are how these military and political leaders who are center stage and running our world and protecting us have all said of the importance of balance in life, and they sort of talk about Erik Erikson and how the richest and fullest lives attempt to achieve an inner balance between work, love, and play. You are at the top of your game, you are at the top of your field, so I just wonder if you could comment or if you had any thoughts or advice.
Sure. About balance, is that what you were saying, just about?
How, when you're someone who is so accomplished and so driven, how do you achieve balance in your life?
Well, I lucked out that I made, I think, I'm not just saying this because my dad's here, but I had very good parents who gave me, and a couple of things. I had very good parents, and I come from a really good family, and then I was very fortunate. I didn't become a famous person until I was 30. I think fame is a drug. I think it's a toxic drug. I would be willing to talk to the New England Journal of Medicine about fame. I'm serious, this isn't a joke. I think if you look at people like Michael Jackson, they were little kids that were exposed to a massive amount of fame. And that happens over and over and over again. I was very fortunate. I came from a really strong background. I had a strong identity. I had a strong set of moral values. And then I didn't get bombarded until I was 30. And when I was 30, overnight, people started knowing who I was, following me on the street, asking me. They didn't have selfies then, but for signature or whatever. And things getting weird. And I had the strength to be able to handle it. And when I would come home to my family, they would say, empty the dishwasher. And I would say, you can't talk to me that way. And then I would empty the dishwasher. And that is, I think, been of a huge value to me. I think we got a tricky thing that's happening right now where people can become very well known because of the internet at a very young age. And I think it's not going to go well for a lot of those people. I worry about very young people getting exposed to, we're supposed to have gravity act upon us. We're supposed to. That's what keeps us healthy. You know, I have this analogy that I came up with once, and I think it's actually valid, which is they sent in the 60s, the Russians couldn't beat us in getting to the moon, or the 70s, but what they decided they could beat us at is amount of time in space. So they would keep Russian astronauts in space for like a year at a time, and then bring them, and they would land on the Russian steppes, not in the water. They would land there, and they would take them out, and they were like jellyfish. And they would lay them in a chair, and they would do a news conference, and they couldn't move. And they were just jellyfish. And that's when people found out, scientists realized that we need gravity to stack the molecules in our bones. That's what actually gives us strength, is the gravity that, and when you take it away from us, we become freaks. I think that's what fame is. I really do. I'm not doing it. I honestly believe that fame is removing gravity from people and allowing outrageous behavior. And you're going to see it a lot. You're going to see it with some of your classmates who do well, who become famous or rich. I see rich people all the time. Gravity has been removed, and they've become less than human. They're not nice. They're outrageous. They're ridiculous. And that's where you get these absurd people that are all over our culture right now that behave crazily and then say insane things and tweet out insane things because nobody's around there. There's no gravity acting on them. It's actually not even their fault. So I think for me personally, I was very fortunate to come from the place I came from, and because I came from that, I chose a partner, my wife, who's like, you know, I've been married 14 years, I've known her 16 years, and she's just, you know, that's great. That's great that you had that great day at work. Okay, now, we got to talk about the parent-teacher conference tomorrow, you know? And it's not, oh my God, you got to, you know, ride a bicycle with Ryan Gosling today? What, you know, oh my God. She's just like, that's what you did at work. Here's what I did at work, and now let's talk about the parent-teacher conference. And I keep saying, hey, Ryan Gosling. And she's like, I don't care. And I have kids, and I'm in a real world where people get mad at me, people are disappointed in me, I have to apologize. I think that's the biggest element, and I think we get in trouble when people in power have no gravity acting on them.
Great, thank you. I just want to set the record straight. I graduated from here and lived in Elliott, and I never once saw anyone with a falcon on their arm.
That's because the Falcons couldn't stand those people.
So one more.
What's that?
One more.
One more? I'm being told we have time for one more. Yes.
Hi, I am
Christine. I'm writing for the Crimson Arts, and I think that nowadays it seems that arts education and like the arts department seems to be the first thing that gets cut down on when there's a budget cut in colleges. I know Harvard is putting a lot more emphasis on this, but for you as a performer and an artist, what do you think should be the approach towards arts education in colleges, and how important do you think an integrated art education is for college students?
Well, I think it's huge, obviously. As far as I can't answer the economics of it. The arts are never going to get. The arts, have never had the financial backing that industry is going to get. And art sometimes flourishes at times historically when it isn't fed that much. Sometimes the best music comes from Liverpool because no one's paying attention, or it comes from the grunge movement in Seattle because it's not being inundated with a lot of help. It can work, obviously, different ways. I don't know, I obviously think Harvard's always going to have a great arts program, and it's always going to be important. I want my kids, they're really interested in the arts. I want them to, they're very interested in acting. My daughter's really interested in singing. I want to encourage that, but I really want to encourage them to get a real education. And my message to her is, look, when you're 22, if you want to try and be part of an all-girl group, I can't stop you. But until then, you're going to learn what you need to know. And so, I do think it has to be in balance. So I think, obviously, it has to be a part of the Harvard education, but I would be worried if either one of my children spent all 4 years only studying dance, voice, things like that. I would really want them to get the kind of education I had.
So, any final words?
You've been disappointing. No, they're like, it's true. You're very self-hating. No. Just thanks. This was a treat for me. President Faust and I have been trying to figure out when this could happen for about a year. And like I said, if you encounter me in the real world, please, I encourage you to come up to me and say, I was at Harvard, you spoke, and tell me how you're doing, because I do really like to connect. I enjoy that, and I think you're an incredibly impressive group of people, and I hope one of you hires me someday. I mean that. You think you're here to look for a job. That's what I'm thinking is I see a sea of people that will be in control of the world when I have trouble walking, and I just ask you to be nice to me. That's all I ask.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.